After a 2-week whirling dervish, what's next for Alabama?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. We'll talk about Gametime here in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today, and thanks to everybody for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. So, Jimmy, we had a late emergency pod last night celebrating the commitment of Jira Edwards, and it was awesome, and we loved it, and it's great. But there is sort of a, I always say this because I always think this is very observant of Jerry Seinfeld. He said, men don't care what's on TV. We only care what else is on TV. So once you get a commitment, you've moved on. You're like, who else? And Bama Online did a good job. They came out with the guys that are essentially still on Bama's list. Now, this isn't going to be completely comprehensive because some people could explode, I guess, their senior year, right? I mean,
well, they could be talking to people and it's off grid too. That happens all the time. They could be talking to people and there would be no way to know that because it's on the download. Oftentimes those kids are committed elsewhere.
Yeah. So they brought up a few guys that we've certainly talked about. Elijah Golden. But we think he's going to end up at Notre Dame at this point.
But Alabama's possible there. Alabama's possible. Can't rule it out. There's
Bear Fretwell, who
increasing momentum there. There's some momentum there. It's just a matter of he's not going to be a high priority guy for Alabama. This isn't a guy they've recruited from the jump. Probably is at Georgia Tech. So, does he want the opportunity for the bigger platform? I mean, that's kind of the question he's facing as he is entrenched or sort of a priority kid for Georgia Tech. This is a guy Alabama liked at camp, by the way. This isn't some name they picked out of a hat. He's also huge. This kid is massive. He's 6'7", 330 pounds. He's a huge kid. But they had him in camp and they liked him.
Yeah, and his rankings aren't going to set the world on fire. I mean, he's a 3-star in 2 services, unranked by 2 other services. Now, I almost would rather you be unranked than ranked a 2-star. Because at least if you're unranked, I don't think they've looked at you yet.
Means I haven't even looked.
His offer list, isn't super sexy. It's Georgia Tech where he's committed. I mean, that's clearly the best one. Then he's got Savannah State, Georgia State, Miami of Ohio, and Sacramento State. Again, what's funny about Bear Fretwell, number one, at that size, and when you just look at his picture, you're like, I don't think this guy's going to be a pud. That's what we love to say about offensive linemen who don't work out. They're a pud, right? I mean, I don't know where that got started, but it's happened. So when you look at him, you just think, okay, I don't think he looks like somebody that's destined for awfulness. And that's a low bar. But at the same time, what's funny to me, if Auburn were to get a commitment from this kid tomorrow, we would all laugh. If Alabama gets his commitment tomorrow, we're kind of cool with it because we know we need bodies, and we would rationalize, hey, he is committed to Georgia Tech, which is fair. And I think the truth is in between. I think that.
The nature of it is, that's someone to giggle at if it's Auburn and it's someone to cheer if it's us. I guess that's just the nature of it. But the way I look at it is he's a camp offer. That means they've worked with him hands-on. They liked him. It's a different story, but look, kids are ranked and get regarded for different reasons. It's not all the same. I think back to Jake Coker. What people won't remember this because it's so long ago. Jake wasn't on any of the early rankings anywhere. I knew he was good because I'm kind of local and know some people over there at St. Paul's, and I knew he was a thing. But his name wasn't out there. He didn't have many offers. And why? Because Jake played basketball back then. The moment football was over, he played basketball. While all these other quarterbacks were going to all these camps, Jake was playing basketball. He just didn't go to those camps. He didn't work out for for this ranking or that ranking. But this is what happened. He was convinced at some point smartly that your future is really more football than basketball in terms of college or particularly professional. So Jake, through QB Country and others, said, okay, well, I'm going to go to camps. He went to 3 camps and that's it. He went to Duke, offer. He went to Florida State's camp, offer. This is showing up without an offer, without really being recruited. Duke, offer. Florida State, offer. Alabama, offer. And then chose to stick with Florida State because when they offered him, he committed. He still went to Alabama's camp anyway, but didn't want to flip to Alabama at that time because he had promised Florida State he was going there. But the point is, no rankings, not highly regarded. No one knows who he is. He gets offered at every college camp he goes to. So clearly he should have been a guy ranked pretty high, but he wasn't. So what I'm saying is just because you see a kid's not ranked, you got to remember there can be reasons for that. And it's not just, to me, it's interesting. He goes to Georgia Tech's camp and they're like, you're a take. We love you. He goes to Alabama's camp and they're like, we like you. As a matter of fact, you got an offer here. So I wouldn't assume too much. Is what I'm saying about the rankings. I say all the time, I love the rankings. We talk about rankings here every day. I'm a pro rankings guy, but the stories like Jake Coker are the reasons that you can't just live your whole life living and dying by the rankings. It's not a science. It doesn't mean everything. It's just a guidepost.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. So then there's Tayden Kaawa. Kaawa.
I think Kaawa, but
okay. The quarterback, we've talked about him a bunch. He's from Orem, Utah. I'll be going out to Utah in a couple of weeks, by the way. Looking forward to that.
Say hi to Tayden while you're there. I was stunned when I first heard Alabama's involvement with him. Only On3 has him ranked high. And by the way, we talked about how funny is it? We've talked about how Alabama's QB evaluations on On3 seem to be spot on, all from Derek Zammit all the way now through Tayden. They've been kind of together. So On3 ranks this guy pretty high. And I was stunned when I saw tape of him. Stunned that he's not a bigger thing.
Yeah, and by the way, I know people think that we say this about everybody, but I do believe he will go up the charts. Here's why. On On3, they have him the 12th best quarterback in the country. ESPN has him the 24th best quarterback. Rivals has him the 26th. 24/7 has him the 87th best quarterback. I'm going to tell you right now, there aren't 86 quarterbacks better than this cat. They just aren't. And this is a simple thing. This is about they haven't had enough time to evaluate him properly. That's the only thing that makes any sense here. This is a stupid low ranking. Again, I go back to I think 24/7 would have been better off not ranking him and going, we just haven't gotten to him yet, than putting out,
and
we think he's the 87th best quarterback.
Yeah, they probably haven't done the full work yet. They probably haven't done a full workup yet. They probably haven't seen him in person. There could be any number of reasons for that. But here's another thing, and I do know this. BYU and Boise, he's a high priority guy for them. He has really good NIL type offers and rev share offers from BYU and Boise State. And I know that's not Texas and Ohio State, but also BYU and Boise both usually have good quarterbacks. It's not like you turn on the BYU game or the Boise game and you're like, oh, they'd be so good if they were better at quarterback. They're usually pretty good at quarterback, sometimes even having very high-profile guys at quarterback. As a matter of fact, Boise recently had a 5-star from USC transfer there. Ends up he just wasn't very great. And BYU's quarterback's been all in the news, but he's sort of a household name.
Not for good reasons.
Not for good reasons, but he's a household name to college freaks. Jake Retzlaff, he's a very good player. So the fact that BYU and Boise have signed off on this guy is actually a good thing, regardless of where he's ranked.
All right, so we've talked about Fretwell, Golden, Kaawa, and then there's Wilson, Zyrer, and Tank Jones that we talk about often. And I think we've sort of covered these two. I mean, my guess is this. We want another offensive lineman, at least one more. Probably prefer Zyrer, and that's fine.
Yep.
But Fretwell is not like it's not like a canyon's worth of difference here.
And plus, they don't have to. Let's also remember this. There's the transfer portal. They don't have to take him. If they take him, that means they want him. They want him, because you don't have to fill out a class. You don't have to fill out your scholarships. And with the transfer portal, you're getting more of a known commodity anyway. So if they take him, they want him. It's not just to fill out the group. But I think Luke is exactly right. I think Wilson Zier would be their more valued guy, and he does have significant offers from power programs. The issue with Wilson, I believe, is academic, and you hardly say that very much anymore. No, not the bad side of academics, the good side. This kid wants to be a pilot, and he's interested in aviation, and he wants to major in aviation or aeronautics. It's something Alabama doesn't offer, but some of the other programs that are recruiting him do offer that. That may end up deciding things with Wilson Zier.
Going to talk a little game time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying tickets. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, like the Braves and Orioles are playing today, I believe. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College. That's all one word. For $20 off your first purchase. Locked On College is that code again. You go to the Game Time app, you create an account, and you redeem code Locked On College, all one word, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, and that's guaranteed by Jimmy Stein. That way, if something happens, they'll be like,
that's it. It's on
Game Time be like, Jimmy Stein guaranteed it. Get it from him.
I get plenty of blame. That's how it works around here. I can tell you that.
All right, let's get into your roster rankings a little bit. You know what? I'm throwing a curveball because I think I want to make sure we can cover the roster rankings appropriately. So let's talk about the Sporting News ranks the SEC quarterbacks, because that's where we are in ranking season. And I thought it was kind of weird. Like, this infatuation the media has with Arch Manning right now is getting a little bizarre for me. I mean, look, they have Arch Manning 1. Fine. I mean,
best quarterback in the country.
Well, 1 in the SEC.
Best quarterback in the SEC.
And I'm like, oh, okay. But that seems so fanboy. I think that is fanboy, not of Texas quarterbacks, but of just the Mannings in general. And I get it. There's a rule. It's sort of like the Bama bump. It's real, but it's also warranted. If you have a Manning, you're probably going to give him a little bit of a Manning bump, and it's probably warranted. But here's my problem. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier, some places have him going number 1 in the draft next year. And this guy has proven himself. He's been there. He's been in the trenches. He's been doing it. Arch Manning has basically come in for kind of mop-up duty mostly. I mean, he's been in there for some other times. I think he started a few games. Maybe Quinn Ewers was hurt. Things like that. He's done okay. I mean, I'm not saying Arch Manning is a bad quarterback, but I feel like, man, Garrett, and I'm no LSU homer here, but come on. I mean, if you're drafting right now, you're going to take Garrett Nussmeier. If you're basing it on, hey, what's been done and what can be done. If you have that much belief in Arch Manning, you better be putting Texas number 1 in the country.
Yeah, that's true. And I do think, by the way, Texas will start out the year number 1 in the country in part because of that. So I think they will.
Thanks for backing me up.
I think they will. Look, I don't get as fired up about it, but I see, two different ways to view a quarterback list. Somebody's like, Jimmy, rank the quarterbacks. Maybe it's the lawyer in me. I start by asking questions. Are you asking me to rank them based on what we've seen so far in their college careers? Because that's one list. Or are you asking me to predict how this upcoming season's going to play out and what the rankings of the quarterbacks will look like in December. Because to me, that's two entirely different ways to go about it. So I'm not sure what the Sporting News is doing. By ranking Arch number one, it tells me they're sort of doing a lot of predicting, because as Luke says, how can you rank Arch ahead of Garrett when Arch is unproven at this level and Garrett Nussmeier is kind of completely proven to the point that he's projected in a lot of first rounds? Now, I think Arch is going to be great. And one thing that gets to me, it just makes me shake my head, is I see this all the time. Well, if it wasn't for Arch Manning's name, well, first of all, are we aware of quarterbacks named Manning that sucked? Is there one out there? Because the three I've seen before him were all Hall of Fame level quarterbacks. And Arch is the descendant of that, who's had extreme training. Secondly, when they're like, no, we're talking about him because his name is Manning, it's not Smith or Jones. This kid was offered by everybody. Do you think Sark is that easy to fool? Do you think Nick Saban is that easy to fool? Do you think Kirby Smart is that easy to fool? And that's just three of the coaches that were busting their butts to get Arch Manning on their team. They had done that not because his name is Manning, because they'd seen the kid play. Then there's all the analysts that rated him 5 stars. Are they wrong sometimes? Sure. But we can't say, oh, I'll take my chances with 5-star quarterbacks and then say, no, that kid's only a 5-star because of his name. Now, I've had a lot of inside scoop as it relates to Arch because of QB country and all that stuff. And I've known from the jump this kid is crazy special. And I think he's going to be great. I mean, I want to go so far as to say I think Texas is going to win the national championship and Arch is going to win the Heisman. That's sort of how I feel about it, because I do think he's going to be just as great as everyone says, and I do think he'll be the number one pick in the draft in the future. As a matter of fact, I think he might win the Heisman and then come back and play another year at Texas, because that would have been what his uncles would have done.
Yeah, that is true. And again, he might. Mm-hmm. I just think, boy, I think that is a huge. I mean, it's a big,
it's a prediction,
matzo ball out there. You know,
well, it's a prediction. Everything I just said is a prediction. It's not based on any sort of fact. So it could be wrong, just like we're probably going to pick how the SEC is going to go and how the national race is going to go and what our playoff picks are, and chances are they're going to be wrong. Right?
Making a prediction is different. Okay, remember when Lou Holtz predicted that Notre Dame was going to beat Alabama in 2012? And this was after, I mean, he was on the field. He saw the two teams come out.
Yeah, there's a lot of historical revisionism about, Alabama was going to stomp them. Many analysts picked Notre Dame to win that game prior to the game.
Some did, but
including
Holtz was adamant about it. Yeah. And what I'm saying is, when the game took place, I mean, it was one of those things where I was like,
Corso picked Notre Dame too, if I remember right.
I don't think he did, but I don't remember. He might have. I need to go look that up. But what I'm saying is, I remember Lou Holtz as being so adamant that Notre Dame was going to win that game. And I remember it like in my head, the realist in me kept saying, Notre Dame has been squeaking by every, Savannah State they've played so far. And Alabama, we had a slip up against A&M when Johnny Manziel became Johnny Manziel. And even then we had a chance to win. We had a screw up on the punt, just like we did in the Iron Bowl 2019 late in the game. But I remember thinking, okay, Lou Holtz is kind of done. That when you come out, when you're a reputable analyst and you come out with a wild prediction and it doesn't work, it really goes against you. And I know that what I'm saying is, well, that means some people are always going to play it safe. I think they should play it safe. I look at this like the Arch Manning thing bothers me. And I've been meaning to talk about, I wanted to talk about this list from Ty Simpson point of view. But what I'm saying, the Arch Manning thing just sort of got me. I was like, I'm no LSU homer. It just bothers me that people are automatically going to put Arch Manning above Garrett Nussmeier right now. I just don't like that.
I get that, because but the only way to justify it is predicting. I predict Arch Manning will be better than Garrett this fall. That's a prediction. It could be right. It could be wrong. But based on what they've done in college football to date, you have to rank Garrett Nussmeier ahead of Arch. You have to rank Lenore Sellers higher than Arch. John Mateer higher than Arch. DJ Lagway higher than Arch. Based on what we've seen so far. With Ty, same thing. If I'm ranking based on what we've seen in college football, I would put Ty somewhere down around 12 or even 13 in the SEC. But if I'm predicting how this fall's going to go, I probably put him at 3, 4, or 5.
All right, so let me then. That's what I'm segueing into here. They have, and let me just read them out. They have Arch Manning 1, Garrett Nussmeier 2, Lenora Sellers at South Kakalaki 3, DJ Lagway at Florida 4, Diego Pavia at Vandy 5, John Mateer at Oklahoma 6, Taylon Green at Arkansas 7, Marcel Reed at A&M 8, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia 9, Ty Simpson at 10, Jackson Arnold at 11. I'm going to stop there because I'm going to be like, okay, it seems like you use one formula for Arch Manning. Okay, now if you're going to do that, then I think you're being kind of disingenuous not to have John Mateer higher, not to have Ty Simpson higher.
We need more prediction. If you're putting a prediction number one, then they all need to be predictions. Don't do a mishmash of, well, some of this is prediction and some of it's just based on what we've seen. And based on what you've seen, I don't know how even Jackson Arnold could be behind Ty, really.
I do.
Well, Jackson Arnold hasn't thrown the ball great, but he's played
without
the
Alabama game. But without the Alabama game, and he did not play super that game. I know Zach Blackerby, our boss, loves to say, "Well, he ran for over 100 yards against Charlotte." He did 100%. I mean, I don't deny that. But the throwing of the football, which is important in this American sport for a quarterback, was non-existent for the most part.
He didn't have a big game throwing it at all. As a matter of fact, even running the ball, it was a good game, no doubt. But so much of that damage was done the first half. Alabama did make adjustments and did defend Jackson Arnold better in that second half. But I'm just saying, I think Ty is going to have a really good year. I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. And if we're doing a predict what this ranking will look like in the fall, I would still have Arch 1, but I would have Ty. I would have Ty up there for sure.
I would have Ty
maybe
in the
even
top
third
6.
or fourth. Yeah,
I would have Ty in the top 6, if nothing more than for the reason you have Ryan Williams, you have a returning Jeremy Bernard, and Isaiah Horton coming in, who a lot of people love. And you have Ryan Grubb as your offensive coordinator. If for nothing else, again, if you're applying the same logic to Arch Manning at 1, I think this whole list should be blown up because it seems like outside of number 1. The rest of the list was based on what they've actually done.
Yep.
Outside of number 1. That's what bothered me.
Yeah, no, I get it. You're right. Okay.
All right, so we're going to get back into the roster countdown now, ranking. And Jimmy, I think you're on what number?
27. Well, today is 25 days, but of course we're on Friday and Saturday. We just basically did emergency podcasts and we can get to them. Yeah. But today is 25. But we'll start at 27. We haven't covered yet. 27th best player, Danny Lewis. Critical player to this team because I think Danny Lewis may end up playing the most snaps of any player at tight end. He's very experienced. On the plus side of things, this guy's been playing first team snaps since after his redshirt year. He's been playing first team snaps with the ones all along. He just hasn't been a significant player and hadn't played significant numbers of snaps, but he's sort of been with the ones from early on. That's a good sign. Here's another good sign. He was kind of frustrated with how many snaps he played last year, so he goes in the portal. Alabama recruited him out of the portal. They went like, no, we do not want you to leave. And trust me, that does not happen with every kid that gets in the portal. A lot of Alabama kids that get in the portal, they just say, thanks for all you did here. Goodbye. Danny Lewis gets in the portal. They lure him back with NIL offers and everything else. We want you to be on this football team. So that's another good sign. Big-bodied kid, looks the part of an inline tight end. That's what I think primarily he'll be, the Y tight end. He has to improve as a blocker. That's the thing to look at. What we need now in his junior season is for there to be an improved Danny Lewis. Most kids get better year to year. He should make a pretty big jump because now he's going to be getting all those first team reps because he's the number 1 guy. Missed the spring with injury. We had a rule this spring that if you're a tight end and you're on the team, you were hurt this spring. All the tight ends were hurt, including Gating. So we didn't really see him this spring. But a significant player on the team, a veteran player on the team, a 4th-year junior who's played quite a few snaps with the ones, predicting that he plays the most snaps at tight end. Though we do have another tight end I've ranked higher on the list that we'll get to in a few days just because I think he's going to be splashier because another tight end is likely to catch all the balls. I think a lot of fans and media, they get more into the tight ends that run down the field and catch balls, and less so on the guys that are getting people blocked at the line of scrimmage. But we all know as football fans that getting people blocked from the tight end position is a big deal. And I think that's what Danny does best. And that's what he's going to be called on to do this fall.
Love Danny Lewis. Think he's an athlete extraordinaire. Think he looks the part. Love the experience. Love that he's been there this long. That foot injury has scared me to death.
Yeah. Well, he's got to get healthy. The whole tight end group was not healthy, and it's crazy to assume that with the depth of injuries Alabama had this spring at tight end, that this fall they're all 100%. I think to some extent there's going to be some non-100% tight ends this fall. There's also a reason we hadn't talked about it because we don't like doing negative things. But look, there's a reason Alabama went and got 2 tight ends out of the portal.
Agreed.
They didn't get 1; they got 2, and one of them they
wondered,
got. Yeah,
we wondered when that happened. We said this is sort of weird.
Yeah. Expecting 1 was sort of like, yeah, but when they took 2, okay, what's the deal here? And
especially when one of them has a career stat line that reads 1 catch for 4 yards in 12 games.
Yeah, it's not like they were like, this guy's so good, we can't resist taking this. No, they went and looked for specific things. I thought another clue was both of the guys they signed out of the portal are sort of block first guys. So they're not too worried about running down the field and catching the ball, because we know another guy on the roster that we're going to get to in a few days on the countdown. He's going to be doing that, and he's probably pretty healthy this fall. Cuevas.
All right, so let's do one more roster ranking,
Sure.
Jimmy, before we close out.
Very interesting. Speaking of veteran, you can't get any more veteran than this. Jah-marian Latham, the only sixth year player on the roster. Here's another guy that, again, if you trust DeBoer, isn't everybody building some trust with DeBoer based on recruiting and stuff? If you're building some trust with DeBoer and his staff recruited Jah-marian Latham to return to the team. They wanted him on this football team. He's lost some weight purposefully. He's going to play the wolf spot. I think they found a niche for him, which is basically a run-stuffing wolf. The other wolves are sort of pass rusher first guys. So we got to defend the run a little better. So they sort of recruited him to play that niche role. But what a veteran presence that's going to help this defense. I think most people listening to the show probably don't know this. Jah-marian Latham has a national championship ring. He's one of very few players on this team that have one. He was
1992.
He was actually on the 2020 team, the greatest Saban team of all time. Jah-marian Latham was on it. That's how long he's been there at Alabama. They call him Uncle. This is his nickname on the team because he's so much older than everybody else. But a veteran presence. He's going to help in the locker room. He's going to help on the sideline, and he's going to help on the field. I see him as a situational run stuffer at the wolf spot who might play more snaps than everybody believes. But we talk about how this is a veteran football team. This is the most veteran of the bunch.
Yeah, he is a veteran's veteran. Like he's one of those guys. He might be on one of those commemorative coins you see advertised on late night on news stations. That's how veteran he is. Like Jah-marian Latham holding the national championship trophy.
The VFW, when they're all around drinking beers, telling their war stories. He's the one. Yeah, I was in World War I.
Yeah.
Y'all talk about Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, y'all was talking about.
I was in the first one.
Y'all remember the blue-gray game? I was in the actual blue-gray game, like when it was the literal blues against the grays. All right, so that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.